Hello everyone, welcome back to Math Specs. My name is Stephanie and today we're going to practice the distributive property. So let's get started. So in this first slide, we're asked to use the distributive property to rewrite the expression within the without the parentheses. So what I'm going to do is, for A, I have 2 times this quantity right here, 4y plus 1. So if I use the distributive property, what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply 2 times 4y, and this will be positive 8y. And then I'm also going to multiply 2 times positive 1, so this will give me positive 2. And there, using the distributive property, I've rewritten this expression without the parentheses, okay? Going on to B, I have 1/5 times this quantity of 10 plus 5y. So if I'm going to use the distributive property to rewrite this, I'm going to multiply 1/5 times 10, and it's going to be 1/5 times 10 over 1. That's how we're going to multiply this number with the fraction, okay? And then I'm going to multiply 1/5 times 5y plus positive 5y, so it'll be 1/5 times 5y over 1. And now to multiply these, for example, 1/5 times 10 over 1, I'm going to multiply 1 times 10. I'm going to multiply the numerators, and then I'm going to multiply the denominators. So for the numerators, 1 times 10 is 10. They're both positive. So it's positive 10, and then 5 times 1 is 5. And I can reduce this, so 10 divided by 5 will give me 2. Then I will multiply this side. So 1 times 5y, they're both positive, so I will get positive 5y, be positive, and then 5y. Then 5 times 1, and the denominator will give me 5. And I can reduce this also. So 5 divided by 5, they cancel and give me 1. So now I'm left with y. So this is my expression without the parentheses, using the distributive property. I multiplied the fraction into this parentheses, and I multiplied the 10 and the 5y. And then I decided to rewrite the 10 as a fraction. So I put it over a 1 in the denominator to multiply my fractions together to make that a little bit more clear. And I also did that for the 5y. Then I multiplied the numerators times the numerators and the denominators times the denominators for both of them. And I noticed that I could simplify these further. So I did, and here is my final answer after doing all this. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue. So here again, we're asked to use the distributive property to rewrite the expression without the parentheses. So I have, for A, I have 9 plus 3n in the parentheses times 2. So I'm going to multiply the 2 into this. So 2 times positive 3n is going to give me 6n, because 2 times 3 is 6, and I carry the n. Now I multiply 2 times positive 9, and this will give me 18. 2 is positive, 9 is positive, so my answer will be positive. Then 2 times 9 will give me 18. Okay. Going on to B, I have 2 times the quantity of u plus 1 over 6. So if I'm going to use the distributive property, I'm going to multiply 2 times u. 2 and u are positive, so my answer will be positive. And since it's just a variable, I just carry it along with the 2. Now I'm going to multiply 2 times 1 over 6. 2 and 1 over 6 are positive, so I will write a positive sign here. And now to multiply this, I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to write this 2 over 1 and write the 1 over 6, because I'm going to be multiplying them. And I'm going to multiply the numerators times the numerators, and the denominators times the denominators. So I'm going to bring down my 2u here, and I'm going to do my multiplication. So 2 times 1 will give me 2. 1 times 6 will give me 6. And I notice that I can reduce this further if I divide top and bottom by 2. So 6 divided by 2 will give me 3, and 2 divided by 2 will give me 1. And here is my final answer. After rewriting this expression using the distributive property, I distributed the 2 into the parentheses. For here, I had a fraction, so I decided to write 2 over 1, then carry out my multiplication, and I got 2 over 6. Then I decided to reduce this fraction even further, so I divided it by 2, the lowest common denominator, the lowest common factor between them. So then I was able to get 1 over 3, and this is my final answer. Okay. So let's go ahead and continue. So again, we're going to rewrite these expressions using the distributive property. For A, I have 10 times 1 minus 1 over 5 times t. So I'm going to multiply this inside. So 10 times 1, they're both positive, so I'm going to get a positive 10. I'm also going to multiply 10 times negative 1/5 over negative 1/5 times t. So 10 is positive, this is negative, so my answer is going to be negative. And again, I'm just going to write parentheses here, and I'm going to bring down my 1/5 and then the t. Okay, so now I'm going to multiply these two fractions together. So I'm going to multiply the numerators times the numerators and the denominators with the denominators. So 10 times 1 is going to give me 10, and 1 times 5 will give me 5. I'll bring down my t, and I can reduce this further. 10 divided by 5 will give me 2, and I bring down the t. So this is my final answer. Let me just rewrite the 10. So our final answer is going to be 10 minus 2t. Okay, so what I did is I distributed this into this parentheses, whatever I had in here. So 10 times 1 will give me 10. Then I multiplied it by, I distributed to this fraction and this variable. And what I did was I put the 10 over 1 to multiply these two numbers together. Then I multiplied the numerators times the numerators, the denominators times the denominators, and then I realized that I could reduce this. 10 divided by 5 will give me 2, and I brought down my t. So this is my final answer. For B, I have 9 minus 5a, and all of this is multiplied by 4. So I'm going to use the distributive property again and distribute the 4 into this parentheses. So I have 4 times negative 5a. So 4 is positive, 5a is negative because of this sign right here. So my answer is going to be negative. So 4 times 5 will give me 20. And I carry my variable a. Now I distribute 4 to 9. So 4 times 9, 4 is positive, 9 is positive. So my answer will be 36. Okay. Let's go ahead and continue to more examples. So let's use the distributive property to rewrite these expressions without the parentheses. So for A, I have negative 2 times 6 minus x. So I'm going to distribute the negative 2. So I'm going to multiply negative 2 times 6. So I have a negative times a positive. So my answer is going to be negative. 2 times 6 is going to give me 12. Now I'm going to distribute the negative 2 to the negative x. So a negative times a negative will give me a positive, and 2 times x is 2x. Okay. Now for B, I have a negative 1 out here times 6 minus y, 6 times y minus 2. So I'm going to rewrite this like this. Okay. If you ever see a negative sign like this, it's a 1 right here. It's just invisible. We can't see it. So I've rewritten it so I can better understand what I'm distributing. I'm distributing a negative 1. So I'm going to multiply negative 1 times positive 6y. So I have a negative times a positive. So my answer is going to be negative. 1 times 6 is 6, and I bring down my y. Now I'm going to distribute the negative 1 and multiply that to negative 2. So I have a negative times a negative. So my answer will be positive. 1 times 2 will give me 2. Okay. So as you can see, we still have to recall our rules of our rules for the signs of multiplication. So when we multiply a positive times a positive, our answer will be positive. a negative times a negative will give you a positive. A negative times a positive or a positive times a negative, doesn't matter the order, because remember our commutative property will be negative. Okay, so these rules are still relevant. Remember that when we have something like negative x or just a negative outside, that this is all just a -1 that is right here. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue to the next slide. So here we have, for A, we have -2 times t plus 4. So I'm going to distribute the -2 inside. So -2 times t is going to give me -2t. Then -2 times +4 is going to give me a negative number because I have a negative times a positive. So it's going to give me a negative. So 2 times 4 will give me 8. Okay. For B, I have 4 times 8 minus 2m. So I'm going to distribute the 4 inside the parentheses. So 4 times 8, they're both positive. So my answers will be positive. So 4 times 8 will be 32. And I'll distribute the 4 to the -2m. So 4 is positive and 2m is negative. So a positive times a negative will give me a negative. 4 times 2 is 8, and I bring down my m. Okay. So we're getting a lot of good practice dealing with negative numbers on the outside. We also worked with fractions and having our numbers that we're going to distribute being on the left or on the right. So a lot of good examples. So let's go ahead and continue to the next slide. And that is a conclusion for our practice set today on the distributive property. Today we worked on various examples to help us get comfortable with the distributive property. And next time we will work on some more examples, but this time involving the area of triangles, the area of rectangles. And this will help us emphasize how we can use the distributive property to express area. So thank you so much for your time today, and I hope you can join me for the next one. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.